TTRLA, man, we are back with another clip. You know what I mean? Hey, man, say, man, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share to my channel, man. I appreciate y'all. We are doing another recap on the YNW Melly murder trial, day number 12, man. We got this shit getting crunchy, man. Tap in, bro. Tap in.
It wasn't until he started watching YouTube, because this case was live streaming, and hearing his name repeated everywhere, that he decided to call up the prosecution. As I further stated in the deposition, specifically questions were asked about his independent recollection of this incident, and he clearly states, let me go to it. I wasn't aware who got into what seat that day, but from me watching what's going on, yeah, I know now. Yeah. Mr. Howard then clarified that. Watching what's going on, do you mean the trial proceedings? He said, correct.
So what's happening now is the defense attorney for YNW Melly is basically trying to discredit the state's witness, Mr. Glass, who stated in the deposition that they had for him that he didn't know that he was needed to be a state's witness until he was looking online and kept hearing his name a lot of times.
To match
the defense
the
is basically trying to create reasonable doubt right now in this situation, because if he only heard his name while looking at YouTube, he's tainted as a witness.
Have a TV live streaming into the courtroom. So most of our rules when we were dealing with it are saying you cannot sit in this gallery and then come up on this stand and testify. But if he's sitting there watching from that TV...
Nah, but do y'all see this nigga YNW Melly? This nigga looking crazy, man. This nigga looking crazy as shit. I don't know what he got going on in his mind. He got the rumbling through papers and shit. I'm like, why is he rumbling through stuff while this lady is talking? This is almost like how you was brought up. And for anybody that was brought up in the Baptist church, you know, if the pastor is preaching, don't be moving around. It's distracting. But this lady holding it down while this nigga moving around. Look at his white other attorney. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, boy?
Truth seeking. And we won't have effective truth seeking if he's allowed to sit here, watch everybody testify, and get up there and then tailor his testimony to the last 3 weeks of evidence and other witnesses who have testified. I provided the case law. I think the law is clear. Reading into that case law, because this rule of sequestration, we do have a sister rule in the federal court system, 615. And they've actually gone on a little bit further with their cases to give us examples of out-of-courtroom communications that are not allowed. And they give us examples of witnesses sitting outside of the courtroom talking about what they testified with another witness who's going to testify. They talk about giving witnesses the transcripts of other witnesses and preventing them from testifying. In this case, again, he watched the entire trial. We don't even have to guess about this, because he tells us in his own deposition that he's been watching this trial, that he's heard his name in this trial, and that's why he's decided after 4 years to come and testify.
Why the fuck is YNW Melly looking at his attorney like this?
To guarantee my client a right to fair trial.
So when your mother found out you lying, when you listening, he got to shaking his head. This nigga is traumatized. He's scared as shit, looking crazy.
The state acknowledges there was a violation of the rule of sequestration. The witness indicated so in that position. However, counsel's representation that he watched the entire trial is wholly inaccurate. That's not what his testimony was. So the court must determine whether or not it was an intentional violation, whether it was inadvertent, or whether it was any bad faith on part of the witness or the state here in particular. The state would proffer that it was an inadvertent violation. It was unintentional on part of the state. As your honor is well aware, it's been documented that Mr. Glass has not been cooperative with the state. We tried to subpoena him pre-trial. In fact, the first time the state spoke with Mr. Glass was after his current arrest, which I believe was in June of 2023. The state contacted the witness for the first time and was able to speak with him after we had already began trial testimony. The witness indicated to me that he would not be here, he would not come, and he would not cooperate with the state subpoena. subpoena. He did corroborate that in his deposition, that he did in fact inform me of that information, and therefore the state operated as he was not going to testify. It was not until the defense subpoenaed the witness that he became compliant and came in on Friday. I think the first time he came to Broward County and the state met with him was on Thursday of last week, which I believe was July 6th. So the first time the state would actually had an opportunity to even speak with the witness in person and inform him of the repercussions of the rule of sequestration was well after testimony had begun already. And the prejudice that the defense has cited in their motion is essentially that he's watched the video surveillance, which is currently in evidence of state 7, and has changed his testimony based on his review of the video surveillance. So two things. He did give a statement to Detective Moretti back on February 26th of 2019, and he indicated that he got into the backseat of the red Mitsubishi. He's now been refreshed, and his memory is now refreshed that he did in fact get into the front seat and not the back passenger seat of that red Mitsubishi. The state would proffer that that prejudice is minimal, and the reason is because we have video surveillance. And so Mr. Glass, in and of himself, can be impeached based on his prior testimony saying he got into the back seat versus the front seat. And that's the only prejudice that the defense has outlined in his deposition testimony that has been colored by his view of any of the trial testimony. And so based on that information, one moment, Judge. The state would say that rule of sequestration for this court to exclude him completely as a witness would not serve its purpose. It's not a per se rule to exclude. The trial court has discretion, and I would ask you to exercise your discretion because there's less intrusive means, being one of him being impeached based on the inconsistency itself.
You have the transcript of this witness's
I ordered a copy and we did not receive one.
You have the transcript, Judge.
If counsel can be so kind as to also provide us with a copy, we haven't received our copy.
Any problem with that?
No, I can email it right now.
All right, so could you give a copy of that to Travis?
Yes.
And what I'll do is I'll make it, I don't know if I'm allowed to make copies.
I can email to Ingrid, and then I can email to them. They have their copy machine right there. I do have one quick follow-up, Judge, if I may.
Sure.
So there is a line of cases, and counsel is arguing from the line of cases where the defense has violated the rule of sequestration. So when it's a defendant violating the rule of sequestration, you do have to go into a Sixth Amendment analysis because it's his constitutional rights that the court still has to protect. And that's why you have that stringent standard. However, when you're dealing with the prosecution violating the rule of sequestration, then it becomes the question of my client's rights to a fair trial. And that's how the analysis should go. And you're looking at those line of questions when you go to 96.16, there is another section that comes down that gives exceptions to the rule of sequestration, which we see. We have the witness's family in here. Why are they allowed in here? Because of 96.16 gives that exception. But there's case law that says when that family gets up there to testify, Mr. Demons' client rights to a fair trial will trump the other people's rights in this case. In this matter,
What's happening now is that the defense attorney is basically
no
saying
right to be
that
watching this
YNW Melly is not in the eyes of the law
testimony to
in
the
a fair
evidence. I would
trial
ask that we look at this
because all the
in the light.
witnesses are tainted and the prosecution isn't doing their due diligence to make sure that witnesses aren't talking to each other about trials and things like
It's
that.
not going to happen with a witness who's been watching this proceeding from the comfort of his home.
But the defense isn't suggesting that this was all some type of connivance.
I don't know. Something about what YNW Melly his movements, man, it's real suspicious. I don't know if the jury is in here while he's doing all this shit, but that's not a good look, man. It's making him seem guilty as fuck. You feel me? Like this his actions, his facial movements, like people are paying attention to all of that. Even the judge, like I don't know if they told him it's certain
So,
things that
Judge, and I did ponder this last night, and for the sake of being a professional, I did not come with a motion for prosecutorial misconduct. But as we've heard Ms. Smith admit herself that she sat in that deposition with us, and they too realized that he had been watching the trial from his own testimony. The simple fact that the state now wants to even put him on the stand is knowingly, Judge. They knew in the deposition, one. Two, they knew when I put him on notice with my motion. So they had the opportunity after the deposition, two, after my motion pointing out we violated the rule of sequestration, just not to call them. They, however, are going to continue to proceed knowing he has violated the rule and put him on the stand. So, yes, when you look at it that way, the state may be acting inappropriately.
Thank you. And counsel, from your perspective, as far as the state's concerned, once you found out this witness was going to, his location was found and you gave his address over, and I know you said he wasn't going to cooperate. I think he made that representation in open court a week or so ago as well. I don't know the exact date, but you made a representation to that effect. When was the first time that you advised the witness that the rule of sequestration?
So right now, the witness for the state is about to come on the stand, and the witness for the state, this is not a good witness, cuz not even answering the questions correctly. He's been, you know, I mean, I guess he being a normal witness, but this the witness, he looking hot and suspicious.
Pardon me?
I am now.
Okay. So you got charged and you had no idea what you're charged with?
Correct.
Okay. And you are now out on pretrial release?
I'm bonded out, sir.
Okay. And while you were on bond,
All right, so
you
for
are
me, the witness,
of the
the state's
opinion
witness
that if
is
you
not
don't come
really
here,
a reliable
I'll be in
witness
jail.
because he was avoiding questions.
That's the only reason.
So basically right now, this state's witness honestly feels intimidated that if he doesn't testify against YNW Melly, they gonna press him to the hardest extent. He going to jail. This state witness is a sinker, you know what I'm saying, for real, for YNW Melly, because this guy told the people, the jury, that he had different clothes on when he came from Fredo Bang's house. I don't know, they might end up going after Fredo Bang. This witness, though, the jury might not even take his testimony seriously because the way he acted. They got him talking about he smoke weed, he's a habitual weed smoker. The nigga like, well, shit, I should have smoked before this trial, for sure.
you told us, you remember seeing me in a deposition not too long ago.
I said what?
You remember seeing me last week on Friday?
Yeah, I remember.
And you recalled at the time that your statement to the detectives was a few days after the incident.
You say, do I recall?
That's what your recollection was at the time.
Yes.
A couple of days after.
A couple of days after.
And now after seeing the statement, you realize that it was 4 months later, right?
You say what?
The statement you gave to police. That
You're telling me it was 4 months?
It was
Or
4
you
months.
asking me?
Pardon me?
You telling me or asking me?
I'm asking.
That don't make sense. For you to ask me if I told you it was 3 to 4 days after they died. Why
So
you
when
asking me
Obama
if it
keeps
was
saying,
4
you
months?
said
I
what?
just told you.
You know the nigga lying. He done forgot what
So,
the fuck he said. That's why it's always good. If you've
In
been
the
questioned by the
statement that
police,
you
people,
gave to
shut the
police
fuck
back
up.
then,
Ask
you
for a fucking
claimed
attorney. You're
that
not gonna remember the shit you said.
you had gotten into the red vehicle in the rear seat, right?
It's 5 years ago. To the best of my knowledge, yeah, that's what I said.
You're saying the statement was a few days after, right?
What did you tell?
The statement that you gave to the police was a few days after the incident,
Yes.
and you said then that you had gotten into the rear of the red vehicle.
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And then you watched this trial unfold on TV over the last couple of weeks, right?
No.
You didn't watch any of this
I
trial?
watched it, but I didn't watch it unfold, whatever you're trying to say.
Okay. You watched this on TV, this trial?
On my phone.
Okay. And you saw a video of yourself get into the red vehicle, right?
Correct.
And you learned that the statement that you gave a few days after the incident was wrong.
Because I said I was in the back and I was in the front.
Yes, exactly that.
That piece.
Yes, that piece.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, so your recollection had begun to fail you only a few days after the incident
Objection.
as regards that issue, at least.
Objection to counsel testifying or perjury.
You forgot where you sat in the vehicle a few days after.
Objection to counsel testifying.
We can answer
Answer what?
that question. Is that correct,
Did
sir?
I forget?
Did you
Or
forget?
did I have make a mistake and say I was in the back?
Look at my boy
Remember
face
that I was in
though.
the front?
Hey, cuz vicious ass backdoor ass nigga, man. He don't even look trustworthy. I wouldn't trust this nigga with
So
a
when
pistol.
you told
I mean,
the
like-
law enforcement officers that you had gotten into the back of the vehicle,